All right, everybody, how you doing tonight? This is John.
Oh,
We'll start over again. Hi, everybody, this is John. We're starting out with a new episode of The Unconditional Life.
I'm Johnny.
How you doing today? We're going to talk to you a little bit tonight about something called change. The one thing we all resist and the one thing that happens to all of us. When we were sitting down talking about this episode, Brad said, the only constant is everything's going to be different. And that is so true.
You can count on is the change.
We resist change so much, but it's actually the only thing that really matters. It's the only thing really good for us. Truthfully, other than, I don't know, somebody's old grandpa who's still being ornery, nobody's the same person they were even yesterday, usually. We all are constantly in this process of evolving, taking in new information, making new judgments, new calls, having new perspectives. And I actually think change is beautiful. I think it's a key proponent to living an unconditional life is the willingness to change. Like we talked about in the last episode, the willingness to be wrong, to adapt, to look at, we don't live in the same environment, even financially, that we did 5 years ago. If you haven't changed your portfolios, you're down. Like just things like that. Being open to the only constant in the world, the only thing you can count on is that everything's going to be different.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Everything. There's nothing more consistent, and you can count on change. The cool thing is that change allows you to experience different sides of the wonderful polarity that we have on this planet too. The experiences that we have, like, okay, we all understand that you can't have really hot things unless there are really cold things. Everything has its equal opposite.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And change allows us to experience those, not just experience, but appreciate. Have you ever appreciated a warm, crackling fire any more than when you get out of skiing for the afternoon or walking in from a blizzard? From one extreme to the other. Now, if you had a fire going all the time, you may say, hey, put that fire out. It's getting kind of stuffy in here. Well, you've lost appreciation for the fire. I mean, this is a stupid example, I know, but
actually,
it kind of gives you an idea of that's the kind of what...
Pretty black and white.
Which is another polarity, black and white. You got to experience the gray. Well... That's what a great gift change is. Change allows you to experience different things in your life, and ultimately you're going to use those experiences to create who you are, recreate yourself. And so change is the biggest blessing that we have. Now, the problem that we run into right now on the planet, or that we're all kind of dealing with, is when we don't accept the change as well, or it takes a lot of people different amounts of time to adjust to different changes. And that's just the nature of life. But a lot of us don't roll with the change. Like you said, when we started, we resist it. And that causes a lot of discomfort and unalignment in our lives that leads to a lot of unhappiness.
It reminds me of a quote, what you resist persists.
Yep.
And it is very true. What you focus on expands. And if you're looking at all the things you don't want in your life and you're got your heels dug in, you're going to get more reasons to dig in.
Yep.
And if you look at the positivity, the possibilities, again, my grandma used to always say there's a silver lining. And there always is.
Yeah.
You know, even if you got in a car wreck and you almost died, well, you only almost died. Like, like there's always I have an aunt that is the greatest. We talked about my aunt a little bit on this show, but she's the greatest example of what if, and then still putting a smile on your face.
Yeah.
I mean, they told her she'd never walk, never talk, never. Now she sings and she gives talks, and she has her days, She keeps having problems, but every time I see her, she's on a bike riding the neighborhood, big smile on her face, trying to get it done and be a part of the solution.
Yeah.
Change the attitude of the people around her by not being a drudge on everybody.
Even physically, I mean, we have over 100 trillion cells in our body that make up our entire body. Our body recycles millions of cells a day. So literally, and I don't remember where I read this, and I don't remember the exact stats about how many is this, how many is that, but over the course of us just being alive, your body will eventually recycle every single cell in your body.
Every 7 years.
In the course of 3 years.
I thought it was 7.
It could be that. And like I said, I don't remember the numbers. But
you're brand new from head to toe.
Yeah, so, I mean...
Either way, 3 to sometime.
And some people have illnesses that last longer than that. So what does that tell you about how much our mind plays into the illnesses and stuff that we have in our life? Or the resisting the change keeps it in place. So our bodies, we're going to quite literally, physically be a completely brand new person compared to what we were in that 7 year or 3 year window.
Whatever, yeah.
Whatever that window is. You not one cell that you have was there that long ago.
You're totally regenerated.
So you are a completely new person. And that happens many times in our lifetimes, depending on how long we live. But a lot of us can still manage to have the same type of illnesses or stuff, even though everything has changed. The reason we do that is because our mind keeps those in place. Even though our cells are brand new, they still are trained by our mind to take their rightful place in this illness alignment. So it's really interesting when we resist change how those things remain constant in our life. And we don't embrace the change, so the change doesn't feel like a good thing. When it really, it's just a thing. It's not good or bad. It's just a thing.
When it's already happening, so you can, like there's no such thing as standing still. As soon as you stop moving, everything moves without you. So you go backwards. Like, there's not... It's
everything's...
You can't stay in the same place.
It's like a never-ending...
You either fall back when everybody else grows, or you move with as things spin.
It's like an always changing mosaic.
Yeah, everything is in flux all the time.
It's a beautiful thing. And the important thing, like we talked recently about being humble. We talked about being vulnerable and all this stuff. Well, change is just a way for us to try to tap into those types of being. So when something big happens, I mean, there's big things and little things. Like we talked recently about how we're in choice all the time. Every single minute of our day, we are choosing something. Yes. Whether it's a little tiny thing, I'm choosing to sit here, I'm choosing to move my arm here, whatever. We're always in choice.
Choosing to even do this podcast.
Yeah.
Whatever it is you're choosing.
And that is our greatest tool we have on this planet, is the fact that we are always in choice about everything we experience. That's the good news when we talk about change. Because that means... So have you ever seen the movie The Guardian?
Kevin Costner. Yes.
Kevin Costner, Ashton Kutcher. One of my favorite movies. Awesome
I love
movie.
It. Yeah, I love
my
it.
My favorite line from that movie, when they're teaching all the students and stuff, is the only difference between the drowning victim and the person jumping in to save that drowning victim is the attitude you had when you went into the water.
Yep.
So when you have these changes coming in your life, are you a drowning victim? Or are you the person jumping in and taking control of that situation?
The swimmer.
Either way, the storm is there. It's happening. Are you going to be drowning in the storm, or are you going to be saving yourself?
Are you the rescue swimmer?
So
I love that.
The fact that we have our choice is the greatest gift. We have a choice to be who we are while we're enduring these changes or experiencing these changes that are happening, which changes everything.
Yeah.
That was really interesting when I thought about that. Yeah.
You got to be careful sometimes. You might scare everybody half to death if they figure out it's all their own fault.
That's true. You don't want to scare them awake that fast.
I just and maybe that's a heavy one to lay out there, but I truly believe we are the creators of our experience.
We're definitely the creators of how we experience the experience.
We definitely are.
For
and,
sure.
And again, this is the same. How many times I know people that have lost a job and they were so excited to have new opportunities that they couldn't even believe it. And then I know people that lost a job and never got another one. Ruined their whole life.
Yep.
I had one friend end up where job loss ended up caught. He ended up losing his life over it. Gave up his own life over it. Like and over the change of a job, a career. Whoa, what?
Yeah.
Well, this is what I always do something different. Like, when was the last time we are what we do?
Yeah, and that change happened to him, and it could have been the greatest thing that ever happened to him if he embraced the change and allowed the change to happen and had a different attitude when he jumped into the water.
Maybe he would have been better at doing something different.
But a lot of us do the same thing. Yep. I've done it many times in my life, and I probably still do it periodically now as I take the position of the victim when the changes are occurring. Another book.
What's happening to me?
Right, yeah.
Instead of what's happening for me.
What's happening... or what's happening to me,
yeah.
Or what's the gift that's being given to me right now. So there's different ways or different states of being you can select while these changes are happening. But first thing you got to know is that these changes are happening. That's just life. Life is change.
Yes.
If nothing's changing, they're not living. Life's not happening. It's impossible for there to be no change. So that's really a pie in the sky thought, but still. It's 100% consistent, our changes. The only thing we have control over is who we are when we go through those changes.
Yes.
And who we are on the other side.
And are we loving? Are we humble? Are we kind? Are we generous?
Yeah. Are
we grateful? Are we willing to be unconditional with everybody else? Are we willing to give them a pass when they need it? I think that being open to this, and the good news and the bad news is, if you don't like it, you can do something about it.
Yeah.
That's the good news.
You have your choice.
Guess what the bad news is? If you don't like it, you can do something about it.
It's the same news.
Yeah, it's the same news. It's up to you. And I know I've, without going too deep, I've been through total transformation in my life from places that I couldn't believe where I am today. Financially,
you are here today.
Financially in marriage, that I'm even sucking air and pumping blood. It's a miracle. I've watched over and over countless people change their whole lives. It is in one day, one decision. I made one decision, changed the trajectory of my life and my family's forever. One decision. And to change, and most of that decision was to be willing to change. And to be willing to be open to the possibility that I needed change. I knew the road I wanted to be on. I knew I wasn't on the road of happiness. But was I bold enough? And how many of us actually know there's a course correction in our life somewhere that we could make, and we're afraid to make it? We're afraid to have that conversation with that guy or that gal or that kid or that parent. And would really set us free, maybe even set them free, change the course of things forever. But we're afraid. Why are we afraid to change a crappy status quo? Like, I love a line that in Australia, they're in the bar, and Hugh Jackman turns to the bartender and said, just because that's the way it is, doesn't that mean that's the way it should be? Why are we settling for less than happiness? Why are we afraid of change when typically a little tweak, sometimes in a marriage, in a conversation, in a business, one little thing can be all the difference in the world. One little perspective, one little change. And we hang on to often stuff that is miserable, sad, because we're comfortable and we're afraid of something different. Well, why are we afraid of something different? I would pose to you the different is always the option to evolution, to growth, to happiness.
Well, and sometimes that decision's as simple as just deciding to go with the change.
Yes.
Instead of fighting it.
It's already here.
I think I used this analogy once in a previous episode, but if you're swimming in a river and you're swimming against the changing water, the current, that's a hell of a time. You won't go very far and you'll just wear yourself out. But as soon as you turn around and you start swimming with the river, you not only free yourself to have all your power, but you now have the power of the river as well. So a lot of that, I think about that a lot, and I've used the analogy a couple times because it's powerful. It really is when you think about it. You've got everything. So if life is the river and it's constantly changing and flowing, that's just the nature of being in the river, you know? But as soon as you start fighting the things that are happening or playing the victim, you either drown or go wear out yourself trying, but turn around and flow with it.
It seems like I remember something about the difference, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like in ironwork, there's a difference between steel and iron because of the flexibility ratings or something like that.
You've already lost me.
And I think that, like, flexible is going to bend with the storms of life, and rigidity is always going to break, shatter. I don't know if that even my comparison even makes sense, but
it does. It's like,
I would just put it out there that we be flexible.
Yeah.
And we be open to the one thing it's going on, whether we embrace it and roll with it or not. Or maybe we should roll into this river of change instead of, oh, crap, I love this crappy rock I'm stuck on, or even this good rock I'm stuck on. Maybe we just let it go and bump into this rock that's more fun and that rock and go to this pool. And maybe that's really what it's all about, is how much can we just let go and surrender and evolve?
Yeah. Yep. Well, and that's just it. That's the main thing that I really wanted to get off my chest when we were talking about this, is just making sure you know that you are in choice with every decision you have to make, and choice is change. So just be the one jumping into the water on purpose. Don't be the one who's, drowning because they don't like what's going on around them. Your attitude that you have when you're going through the changes is 100% key and vital.
Absolutely. And remember, this is a famous line from a song. If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice.
That's still a choice.
We love you guys. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate you.